Imagine a world where the horizon is not a line of stone or sky, but an infinite, undulating ocean of emerald. From high above, the view is dizzying. A carpet of green so dense and vast that it seems to swallow the very concept of geography. We live in an age where satellites have mapped the dusty craters of the Moon and the frozen plains of Mars with surgical precision. We have peered into the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Yet here, on our own blue planet, lies a kingdom that remains largely a ghost on our maps. This is the Amazon, a 7 million square kilometer expanse of biological complexity that defies human comprehension. It is not merely a collection of trees. It is a colossal, living biological machine. It is the planet's breath, a rhythmic pulsing of oxygen and moisture that regulates the very air we draw into our lungs. Every second, this emerald giant exhales, pumping massive quantities of water vapor into the atmosphere, creating what scientists call flying rivers, invisible currents that sustain life thousands of miles away. Yet, the sheer scale of this place is only the beginning of its mystery. Within this massive green veil, millions of species are estimated to exist, many of which have never been seen by human eyes. In a world that feels increasingly small, nature still holds its secrets close. Every time a single ancient tree falls, crashing through the layers of the forest, a secret might vanish forever. A unique chemical compound that could cure a disease, a specialized insect with a life cycle we can barely imagine, or a biological miracle we will never understand. This is a library where the books are written in the complex language of DNA. And tragically, we are losing entire volumes before we have even learned to read the first page. As you descend through the canopy, the environment shifts. The bright, searing sun of the equator is filtered through millions of leaves, transforming into soft, volumetric rays of light that pierce the darkness like golden spears. These are the God rays, illuminating an air that feels heavy, thick, and vibrantly alive. The atmosphere here is saturated with a humidity so intense it feels like a physical weight against your skin, accompanied by a shimmering haze of forest gold, fine clouds of pollen and spores dancing in the light. It is a place of unparalleled beauty, a paradise of vibrant colors and strange alien forms. But this beauty is deceptive. The Amazon is simultaneously the most hostile environment on Earth for human life. To step beneath the canopy is to enter a battlefield where the heat is an oppressive force and the ecosystem resists our presence. The sensory experience is overwhelming, a constant assault on the ears that reminds you of your own insignificance. There is the deafening roar of howler monkeys, a sound so primal it vibrates in your chest, echoing across the treetops. It is a sound that speaks of ancient territories and raw power. And then, there is the contrast, the eerie, suffocating silence of the deep undergrowth. In the shadows near the forest floor, where the sun never reaches and the air is perfectly still, the silence feels heavy. You can hear the slow, deliberate drip of water from a waxy leaf, the faint rustle of a predator moving through dead foliage, or the rhythmic, mechanical clicking of insects hidden in the bark. It is a soundscape defined by the tension between life and death, a place where you are never truly alone, even when the silence is at its most profound. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. In this realm of eternal shadows, evolution has taken a different path, one that is often more terrifying and bizarre than anything found in science fiction. We are standing at the edge of the infinite unknown, peering down into a darkness where the rules of the surface world no longer apply. The Amazon is a mirror, reflecting our own curiosity and our deepest fears back at us. It is a place that asks nothing of us but to let it exist, yet it holds the keys to our survival. As we push deeper into the heart of this green labyrinth, we must ask ourselves, What truly lies beneath that canopy where the light never reaches? What ancient forces shaped this land, and what creatures have mastered the art of survival in the deep, suffocating dark? We are embarking on a journey into the shadows, a quest to uncover the secrets of the most mysterious and unexplored ecosystem on Earth, where every shadow has eyes and every leaf tells a story of survival. The journey has only just begun. To understand the Amazon of today, we must first peel back the layers of time, venturing into a past so distant that the very bones of the South American continent looked fundamentally different. Millions of years ago, the landscape we now call the Amazon basin was unrecognizable to any modern traveler. In a staggering geological transformation, the rise of the Andes Mountains acted as a colossal, jagged wall, intercepting the moisture-laden winds and forcing the Earth to rethink its entire geometry. Before this tectonic upheaval, the massive drainage system of the northern region actually flowed toward the Pacific Ocean. But as the mountains surged upward, fueled by the relentless grinding of tectonic plates, they blocked the western exit, creating a vast, stagnant internal sea, a prehistoric Mediterranean trapped in the heart of the continent. Eventually, the sheer weight of the water and the shifting crust forced a radical, violent reversal. The river turned its back on the sunset and began its long, winding journey toward the Atlantic. This was the birth of a giant, a moment when the geography of the world was rewritten by the slow, crushing power of the Earth's inner fire. This reversal didn't just change the map. It created the conditions for the most diverse biological explosion in the history of our planet. For centuries, the modern world viewed this emerald expanse as a virgin forest, a wild and untouched wilderness where humans were mere spectators or primitive wanderers. However, the dark mud beneath our boots tells a much more complex story. If you dig deep into the nutrient-poor acidic clay typical of the tropics, you will occasionally stumble upon something that should be impossible: terra preta. This dark earth is a deep, rich, and incredibly fertile soil that does not occur here naturally. It is a man-made miracle, a sophisticated mixture of charcoal, bone, and organic waste, crafted by ancient hands over thousands of years. This soil remains incredibly fertile today, a silent, chemical testament to the sophisticated agricultural techniques of civilizations that thrived and built empires long before the first European keel ever touched the Atlantic coast. It proves that the Amazon was not an empty void, but a vibrant home to millions of people who understood the delicate balance of the land far better than we do in our modern age. The mystery of these people deepens as we look through the digital eyes of 21st century technology. Using LiDAR, light detection, and ranging, scientists are now stripping away the suffocatingly dense canopy with millions of laser pulses, revealing what the naked eye could never hope to see from the ground. Beneath the layers of vines, strangler figs, and thick moss lie the skeletal remains of what researchers call garden cities. These were not the stone pyramids of the Maya or the high-altitude fortresses of the Inca, but sprawling, sophisticated urban grids made of wood and earth, connected by a network of perfectly straight roads and complex canals. These ancient urbanites didn't fight the forest. They engineered it. They built massive earthworks and raised mounds that protected their homes and crops from the seasonal pulse of the great floods. Seeing these digital reconstructions, we realize that the Amazon we see today is, in many ways, an anthropogenic forest, a living, breathing orchard. The ancient tribes were master gardeners on a continental scale. They selectively planted and nurtured the species they needed: cacao, rubber trees, and Brazil nuts, effectively designing the very biodiversity we now mistake for wild randomness. High above the modern clearings, another enigma reveals itself to the soaring birds and satellite lenses. Massive geoglyphs, geometric circles, squares, and hexagons, are carved into the earth, some spanning hundreds of meters in perfect symmetry. These shapes, dating back over 2,000 years, speak of a mathematical and spiritual precision that challenges everything we thought we knew about tribal history. These were likely ceremonial spaces, sacred cathedrals where the physical world met the spiritual, carved into the very skin of the planet. To the indigenous people who still inhabit these lands, such as the guardians of the secret who remain uncontacted, these are not just archaeological sites. They are the living footprints of the ancestors. The history of the land is inextricably tied to their spiritual beliefs, where the forest isn't a collection of resources, but a family of spirits. Every tree and every river bend is inhabited by the essence of those who came before. The untouched wilderness is a myth. The Amazon is a masterpiece of ancient human cooperation with nature, a legacy that continues to pulse with the spirits of a past that refused to be forgotten. As we move deeper into this living museum, we realize that the Amazon's ancient inhabitants didn't just leave behind fertile soil and forgotten stone. They left a stage for some of the most bizarre and beautiful evolutionary theater found anywhere on Earth. In this cathedral of emerald green, survival is not merely about brute strength or size. It is an intricate, high-stakes game of deception, transparency, and hidden signals. Look closely at a jagged, broken branch of a weathered cedar tree, and you might suddenly find yourself staring back into two massive yellow, ghostly eyes that seem to pierce through the very humidity of the air. This is the potu bird, a creature that has mastered the high art of becoming nothing. By day, it freezes in a stiff, vertical posture, its mottled brown and grey feathers mimicking the texture of rotting wood and lichen so perfectly that it effectively vanishes from the physical world. The bird becomes an extension of the bark, a silent watcher in a world of perpetual humidity where the air is thick with the scent of wet earth and ancient moss. It is a sentinel of the shadows, a phantom that has evolved to disappear in plain sight, reminding every traveler that in this forest, if you aren't seeing anything, it's often because something is watching you with an almost terrifying, motionless patience. The forest floor and the low-hanging leaves offer no reprieve from these biological wonders. Here, perched precariously on a fern, the glass frog clings to the underside of a leaf, its skin so translucent that it serves as a window into its own existence. Looking through its belly, you can literally see its tiny heart beating in a frantic rhythm, its translucent lungs expanding with the thick air, and the very food it has recently consumed winding through its digestive tract. This isn't just a biological curiosity. It is a masterstroke of light-filtered camouflage. By allowing the vibrant green of the surrounding foliage to shine through its own body, the glass frog erases its silhouette, turning itself into nothing more than a dappled patch of sunlight and shadow. Around it, the shimmering scales of rare butterflies catch the light. But the frog remains a ghost, a master of a different kind of visibility. It is a living, breathing jewel that thrives in the constant moisture of the mists, a testament to how the Amazon demands its inhabitants become one with their surroundings or face certain extinction. When the heavy tropical rains arrive and the forest floor transforms into a labyrinth of murky black water pools, the common basilisk, often whispered of as the Jesus lizard, performs a feat that seems to defy the very laws of physics. When threatened by a predator, this reptile doesn't dive for safety. It runs. With its specialized fringed toes creating tiny, frantic pockets of air against the water's surface tension, it breathes life into a miracle by sprinting across the liquid expanse at incredible speeds. This high-speed dash is more than a flight response. It is a display of biological perfection that leaves the surface of the water barely rippled. In high-speed motion, every step is a masterclass in mechanical precision and evolutionary desperation. A race against the pull of the watery depths that captures the frantic, pulsating energy of life within the basin. Yet, the most profound and far-reaching intelligence in the Amazon might be the one we cannot see at all. Beneath the tangled roots of the towering mahogany and the ancient buttressed kapok trees lies the wood-wide web, the mycelium network. This vast subterranean labyrinth of microscopic fungal threads connects the entire forest into a single, giant, sentient organism. Through this complex chemical highway, the trees communicate in a language of molecules, warning one another of impending insect attacks or shuttling vital carbon and nutrients to a struggling sapling drowning in the deep shade of the understory. The forest is not merely a collection of individual competitors fighting for light. It is a collaborative society where life is sustained through a massive, invisible exchange. This mycelium is the nervous system of the Amazon, ensuring that the death of one forest giant eventually feeds the birth of 1,000 others in a cycle that spans millennia. But the forest also protects its deep secrets with a fierce, agonizing intensity that keeps the unwary at bay. No creature embodies this better than the bullet ant. To look at this inch-long, rust-colored insect is to witness the raw power of biological chemistry. Its sting is widely considered the most painful in the natural world, often described as the sensation of being shot by a pistol, a searing, throbbing agony that radiates through the body for 24 hours. For certain indigenous tribes, like the Satera Mao, the bullet ant is more than a predator. It is a spiritual gatekeeper. In grueling initiation rites, young men must wear woven gloves filled with hundreds of these ants, enduring the chemical fire to prove their worthiness and their unbreakable connection to the forest spirits. This is the fundamental duality of the Amazon's inhabitants. They are beautiful, fragile, and utterly lethal, each a specialized gear in a biological machine that has been refining its design for millions of years. Every leaf, every shadow, and every silent vibration in the humid air is a part of this constant watching. In the Amazon, you are never just a visitor. You are a participant in a symphony of survival that never sleeps, where even the smallest warrior can bring a giant to its knees. In the deep, flickering shadows, where the sunlight barely reaches the forest floor, another layer of this complex biological machine reveals itself. Not through animal instinct, but through human wisdom that has survived the rise and fall of empires. Beyond the territory of the bullet ant and the prowling predators, there exist the shadows of humanity, the uncontacted tribes who represent the final frontier of the human experience. To call them lost is a fundamental misunderstanding of their presence and their sovereignty. These groups are not wandering aimlessly. They are the deliberate architects of their own isolation, having chosen for centuries to remain apart from the relentless noise and perceived progress of the modern world. They are the true guardians of the secret, living in a state of hyper-awareness where every crack of a twig or shift in the wind carries a vital message of survival or imminent danger. This isolation presents a profound ethical labyrinth for the rest of the world. Organizations like FUNAI walk a razor-thin line between scientific curiosity and the absolute right to human privacy and safety. The policy of no contact is not an act of neglect, but a shield against the historical trauma and devastating consequences of colonization. Through aerial photography and long-range surveillance, we catch fleeting glimpses of their existence. Sturdy communal longhouses, meticulously cleared gardens, and figures moving with a grace that seems at odds with the dense, chaotic brush. These images serve as a haunting reminder that we are not the only masters of this planet, and that our definition of progress is often blind to the sophisticated harmony these people have maintained for 10,000 years. Their presence challenges the very foundation of our modern assumptions about technology and society. What these tribes possess is not merely raw survival skill, but a form of botanical alchemy that modern laboratories are only beginning to decipher. While we struggle to synthesize new medicines, the indigenous peoples of the Amazon have already mastered the forest's complex chemistry. They understand the precise moment to harvest the bark of a specific vine to create curare, a paralyzing poison used for long-range hunting that, ironically, became the foundation for modern surgical muscle relaxants. Their knowledge extends to anesthesia, fever reducers, and antiparasitic treatments hidden within the leaves of seemingly ordinary shrubs. This is a library of life that contains no books, only the oral traditions passed down through generations of shamans who view the forest not as a collection of commodities, but as a vast family of spirits. To a shaman, a medicinal plant is not just a chemical compound, it is a living relative that must be negotiated with, respected, and thanked for its sacrifice. This spiritual relationship defines their every interaction with the land. In the Western mind, the Amazon is often seen as a resource to be extracted or a wilderness to be tamed. To the guardians, the forest is a sentient entity, a breathing collective where the boundaries between the human, the animal, and the divine are fluid and interconnected. Their movement through the undergrowth is a masterclass in stillness and respect. While a modern explorer crashes through the vines, creating a cacophony of sound that alerts every predator for miles, an indigenous hunter moves like a ghost. He steps where the leaves are damp to avoid the crunch. He waits for the wind to mask his scent. He becomes the very shadow he walks within. This is the ultimate integration of species and environment, where the human becomes an extension of the emerald landscape. Yet, this ancient existence hangs by a thread of biological fragility that is terrifying in its simplicity. The greatest threat to these isolated souls is not the jaguar or the caiman, but the invisible pathogens we carry in our lungs. A simple common cold, brought by an illegal gold miner or a misguided missionary, can act as a biological weapon of mass destruction, wiping out an entire lineage that has no genetic immunity to the diseases of the outside world. This risk turns every encounter into a potential apocalypse, making the preservation of their isolation a matter of literal life and death. As they move silently through the god rays of the afternoon sun, they carry with them the last fragments of a world that once was, a world where humanity lived in a rhythmic balance with the earth. This deep cognitive connection is reflected in their language, which acts as a bridge between the physical and the metaphysical. These cultures have hundreds of words for different shades of green or specific types of rain, reflecting a level of environmental detail that is invisible to the untrained eye. They see a world where we see only a wall of trees. As we look at the forest, we see a mystery. They see a home, a provider, and a god. Their wisdom is the silent heartbeat of the basin, a reminder that the greatest secrets of the Amazon are not just found in the soil or the trees, but in the minds of those who have never left its embrace. They remain, watching from the shadows, as the modern world edges ever closer to their sacred borders. Leaving the ethereal silence of the uncontacted tribes, we step into a realm where silence is not a sign of peace, but a prerequisite for murder. In the Amazon, beauty is balanced by a brutal, efficient hierarchy of death. At the pinnacle sites the jaguar, the soul of the jungle. To the indigenous peoples, it is more than a cat. It is a deity that walks between worlds. Unlike other big cats, the jaguar possesses a terrifyingly unique signature of violence. It is the only feline that kills its prey not by strangulation, but by delivering a single, devastating bite through the heavy skull. His canine teeth pierce the brain of its victim, cracking the thick shell of a turtle as easily as a dry twig. It is a creature of shadow and muscle, moving with a fluid grace that makes it nearly invisible until the final explosive moment of the hunt. Below the canopy, in the stagnant, tea-colored waters of the remote Oxbow Lakes, another ancient king maintains its reign. The black caiman is a living relic of a prehistoric era, a reptilian giant that can grow up to 6 meters in length. It is the ultimate underwater ambush predator, a master of patience that can wait for days, with only its lidless eyes breaking the surface tension. When a capybara or tapir approaches the water's edge to drink, the caiman becomes a blur of dark scales and churning foam. Its bite force is legendary, a mechanical pressure that traps anything within its jaws in a truly inescapable tomb. In the dark water, the caiman is not just a hunter. It is the water itself, a silent, armored force of nature that reminds all living things that the surface is a boundary between life and a cold, submerged abyss. While death often creeps from the undergrowth, the limitless sky offers no sanctuary. Look up, and you might see the harpy eagle, the true terror from above. This magnificent avian nightmare is a marvel of biological engineering, equipped with talons the size of grizzly bear claws. It does not circle and scream like a common hawk. It waits in the dense canopy, a silent sentinel tracking the slightest movement of a monkey or sloth through hundreds of yards of thick foliage. When it dives, it moves with a calculated ferocity, snatching its prey directly from the treetops without ever touching the ground. To witness a harpy eagle in flight is to see the apex of aerial evolution, a predator so dominant that it has no natural enemies in the sky, reigning over the emerald ceiling with an iron grip and a cold, unblinking focus. Yet, the hierarchy of death is not reserved only for the giants. In the suffocating darkness of the forest floor, the Amazonian giant centipede proves that horror comes in many sizes. Reaching lengths of over a foot, this multi-legged predator is a nightmare made flesh. It is lightning fast and aggressively venomous, capable of climbing vertical cave walls to snatch bats mid-flight. It represents the relentless competition for survival that happens beneath every leaf. This constant cycle of predation is not an act of cruelty, but a vital mechanism for the vast forest's health. These apex predators maintain the delicate balance of the ecosystem, preventing any single species from overpopulating and stripping the forest of its foliage. They are the regulators of life, the guardians of the genetic pool, ensuring that only the swiftest and smartest endure in this hostile paradise. Local people do not view these animals with the simple terror of the uninitiated. Instead, there is a profound respect of fear. They understand that without the jaguar's bite or the eagle's claw, the forest would lose its soul. They see themselves not as masters of these creatures, but as neighbors in a dangerous neighborhood where every life depends on the presence of the shadow. The predators are the teeth of the forest, ensuring that the biological machine continues to hum with the energy of life and the inevitability of the hunt. This respect is a silent pact, a recognition that in the heart of the Amazon, the hunter and the hunted are two sides of the same sacred coin, perpetually spinning in the endless green twilight, awaiting the next ripple. As we descend from the humid canopy and cross the tangled banks of the forest floor, we encounter a boundary where the earth gives way to an even more mysterious empire. The Amazon River is not merely a body of water, it is a moving ocean, a colossal artery of life so immense that it defies the traditional definition of a river. This is the Mother of Waters, a hydrologic titan that contains more water than the next 7 largest rivers combined. In its widest reaches, you cannot see the opposite shore, and the sheer volume of its flow creates its own internal tides and massive underwater waves that churn the silt of centuries. This liquid world is divided by a chemical war, the white waters, opaque and heavy with Andean minerals, and the black waters, stained dark by tannins of decaying leaves, looking like a vast river of cold tea. Where these two worlds meet, they do not blend immediately. They collide in a swirling dance of colors, a visual boundary that marks the entrance to a submerged labyrinth where light is a rare luxury and the rules of survival shift with the currents. Hidden within these tea-colored depths is a creature of legend that has haunted human imagination for centuries. The green anaconda is the heavy-bodied queen of the shallows, a serpent that favors weight over length. While cinema has inflated her dimensions, the reality is no less terrifying. Her power lies in a girth as thick as a grown man's torso and a muscular density that allows her to exert hundreds of pounds of pressure per square inch. She is an ambush artist of the mud, lying in wait where the river meets the reeds. When she strikes, she does not chew, she binds. Every time her prey exhales, the coils tighten, a relentless constriction that halts the heart and collapses the lungs in minutes. In the murky water, she is nearly invisible, a slow shadow that can overpower a deer or even a black caiman, dragging the forest's inhabitants into a cold, breathless grave. Yet, the river's reputation for terror is often built on exaggeration, none more so than the myth of the piranha. Popular culture has painted them as mindless, flesh-eating machines, capable of stripping a cow to the bone in seconds. The truth is far more nuanced. While the red-bellied piranha possesses teeth as sharp as scalpels, they are primarily the vultures of the river. They are the essential cleaners, the biological janitors that target the weak and the dying. In a healthy ecosystem, a school of piranhas is a sign of a balanced environment, ensuring that carcasses do not rot and poison the water. They are shy creatures that only become aggressive during the height of the dry season when food is scarce and they are trapped in shrinking pools. They are not the monsters of the deep, but the keepers of the river's hygiene, playing a vital role in the never-ending cycle of nutrient recycling that sustains the basin. Deeper in the silt-heavy currents, another inhabitant has evolved a way to see without eyes. The electric eel is a living battery, a biological marvel that can generate up to 800 volts of electricity. It is a type of knife fish that uses low-voltage pulses to map its environment, creating an electric field that detects movement in the dark. When it finds a target, it releases a high-voltage burst that paralyzes the nervous system of its victim instantly. To witness an electric eel hunt is to see the raw power of nature's physics, an animal that has mastered the fundamental forces of the universe to survive in a world of total darkness. Not all terrors are defined by teeth. The pink river dolphin, or boto, is a spectral presence in the Amazon's flooded forests. Their bubblegum pink skin and bulbous foreheads give them an alien appearance, but it is their behavior that truly unnerves the locals. Folklore tells of the boto transforming into handsome men to lead villagers into an enchanted kingdom. Biologically, they are masters of the flooded jungle, with unfused neck vertebrae that allow them to navigate between submerged trees like ghosts in a drowned cathedral, using echolocation to find fish in the root-tangled gloom. However, if the dolphin is the ghost, the giant otter is the river wolf. Reaching 6 feet in length, these social predators hunt in coordinated packs, using complex vocalizations to trap fish and drive away large caimans from their territory. They represent the communal power of the Amazon, a reminder that even in the dark waters, cooperation is the ultimate tool for survival. As we float over these deep mysteries, we realize the river is a mirror of the forest above, a place where every ripple hides a secret, and every shadow is a pulse of life that refuses to be tamed. Yet this magnificent, churning empire of water and wood stands at a precarious threshold, a moment in geological history where its very breath is being measured in percentages of loss. It is a giant, self-regulating atmospheric pump. Through a process called evapotranspiration, The forest releases 20 billion tons of water vapor into the sky every single day. These are the flying rivers, torrents of moisture that travel across the continent, bringing life-giving rain to distant farms and cities. But this cycle is fragile. Scientists warn of a definitive tipping point, a mathematical line. If 20 to 25% of the forest is lost, the feedback loop that creates its own rain will shatter. The lush, humid canopy will no longer be able to sustain itself, and the entire system will begin an irreversible collapse into a dry, fire-prone savanna. We are currently standing on the precipice of this transformation, watching the gears of the world's greatest biological machine begin to grind and falter. The wounds on this landscape are often visible from space. This is the scar of gold. Illegal mining operations have carved deep into the riverbanks, stripping soil to find the precious metal hidden beneath. To extract the gold, miners use mercury, a heavy metal toxin that seeps into the water table and flows through the veins of the ecosystem. It poisons the fish, the birds, and the indigenous communities who have lived in harmony with these waters for millennia. This is a silent chemical warfare, where the pursuit of wealth leaves behind a sterile wasteland of toxic mud and dead trees. Alongside this chemical blight is the annual horror of the fire season. These are not the natural fires of a healthy ecosystem, but man-made conflagrations intended to clear land for cattle and crops. These blazes create a devastating feedback loop of heat and dryness, as the smoke chokes the sky and the blackened earth absorbs more solar radiation, further desiccating the remaining forest and making it even more vulnerable to the next spark. Preserving the Amazon is not merely an act of sentimental environmentalism. It is an act of self-preservation. Every acre that is incinerated represents the burning of a prehistoric library, a repository of chemical and biological secrets that we have barely begun to read. Within these leaves and roots are the blueprints for medicines we have yet to invent, the genetic codes for crops that could withstand future climates, and the complex social structures of species that challenge our understanding of intelligence. When a single species of orchid or a rare beetle vanishes, we lose a page of a survival manual. To let the Amazon die is to choose ignorance over wisdom and to throw away the keys to our own biological future. As we look across the vast, undulating canopy one final time, we must realize that the Amazon is a mirror. How we treat this forest, how we weigh the short-term gain of its resources against the necessity, is a direct reflection of how we value life itself. It is a place of incomprehensible wonder that asks for nothing but the permission to exist. It is the heart of our world, beating with the rhythm of millions of wings and the silent growth of ancient roots. Our legacy will not be defined by what we took from the jungle, but by what we had the courage to leave untouched. The camera pulls back now, rising slowly from the texture of a single leaf. It ascends through the golden mist of the mid-canopy. Higher it goes until the individual trees merge into a seamless carpet of emerald, bisected by the wide and winding serpent of the river. The sun dips toward the horizon, casting a deep, fiery orange glow across the endless landscape, where the forest finally meets the sky in a blur of mist and light. The roar of the howler monkeys and the trill of the insects begin to soften, blending into the rhythmic, low-frequency pulse of the falling rain. This is the ancient and sacred heartbeat of the jungle, a sound of persistence, of mystery, and of a wild, beautiful world that remains, for now, the most magnificent secret on earth.